Global Affairs. He joins us now live from New York. Omar, thank you for being with us here on TRT World. So I want to ask you about Israel's end goal here. I mean, we're into the second day of this escalation between the two Middle East forces. The goal that Netanyahu has stated at the beginning was to eliminate what Israel views as the existential threat that Iran poses. But given that Israel has yet failed to eliminate Hamas in Gaza, what is Netanyahu's real goal here, do you think?
Yeah, there are many reasons to believe that Israel can't accomplish the goal of destroying Iran's nuclear program. First of all, for the ones you just mentioned, its inability to destroy Hezbollah, for that matter, or Hamas after 2 years of bombarding the Gaza Strip. But it's well known that Iran's nuclear capabilities, its facilities, are well protected for the most part underground. I mean, you can do some damage. You may be able to set them back for weeks or months, but not to eliminate the program. And so I think this is much more directed about sabotaging the nuclear negotiations that are underway between the United States and Iran. And those, I think, had reached a little bit of an impasse in which, it required more finesse to get them further along. And I think Netanyahu used that impasse in order to convince the U.S. president that, hey, let's go in and strike Iran. And maybe the United States president was convinced that this will soften the Iranians up, and then they'll come back to the negotiation table with maybe less of a hard line. And that's, I think, rather foolish. Now they're not going to back to the negotiation table that was supposed to take place today in Amman. And so, I think that's where we're at. And now we're caught in an escalatory cycle here in which the stakes are getting higher and higher, and the situation is much more dangerous.
And what is your assessment of what we will see over the coming days? I mean, how long do you think Iran can sustain the scale that we've seen of the attacks it's been able to launch on Israel?
I mean, Iran has a very significant arsenal of rockets and missiles, ballistic missiles and drones that it can fire at the Israelis. I mean, how devastated they've been over the past couple days. I think their air defenses have been harmed pretty substantially, so that Israel has, a lot of room to maneuver, at least in western Iran, according to Israeli military sources and Netanyahu himself. But at the same time, clearly, Iran is capable of firing and hitting significant targets within Israel, including the Ministry of Defense, hitting Tel Aviv tonight, hitting Haifa and potentially the port and military bases there. So Iran has a strong capability to strike back against Israel. I think if this drags on for a long time, Iran, it doesn't work well for Iran, because it will continue to deplete its resources. Its resources will continue to be hit by Israel. And there's nobody really to supply Iran in the same way that Israel has, the United States and Germany and others who are constantly resupplying it. And so if this drags out for a very long period of time, I think it works against Iran and works for Israel. But if Iran can inflict enough damage to Israel that it forces it to step back from this kind of escalatory posture, that I think is the only way Iran has out of this.
And what else do you think could come next? I mean, we've been talking with our correspondent about the likelihood of potential maritime disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz, American bases in the region targeted. Do you think any of that is on the cards for the coming days?
I mean, Iran has always threatened those things. I think, those are more like last resort options. If its back is truly to the wall and it needs to, exert pressure on the international economy and force other powers to step in and try to stop the situation, I think Iran might resort to closing down the Strait of Hormuz, which I think it's potentially able to do, or to strike against, oil facilities of, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and others, which I think it's much less willing to do now that it has reestablished positive relations with those countries. So it's not like in the old days where it was those countries were part of this effort to kind of isolate and contain Iran, and Iran might have been much more willing to strike out against its oil infrastructure, as it's done in the past, using its allied forces in the region. I think we're further away from that than we were a few years ago. But if Iran is truly desperate and it needs to apply pressure, we might get to that stage, and that is the very dangerous stage in which this turns into a much broader regional conflagration.
Certainly. Omar Rahman, Fellow at the Middle East Council on Global Affairs from New York there. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.